There are, trying to do this from memory,
Okay.
but 33 million small businesses in America, and it defines small as under 500 employees. And of those 33 million, only 7% make it above $1 million in annual revenue.
Uh-huh.
And of those 7%, only 4% make it above 10 million in revenue.
Welcome to Beyond Clean with ACE. In the world of commercial cleaning, newcomers and seasoned professionals know we're more than just toilets, windows, and floors. We're just like everyone else with diverse interests in everything. And over the past 7 seasons, tens of thousands have discovered engaging, thoughtful, and truly game-changing knowledge here. Whether you're a facility manager, a frontline staff member, or a building services contractor, we're here to help you grow both personally and professionally. So hit that subscribe button and share with others, because we're all about enhancing lives in healthy, positive, and proactive ways. Now let's join Dave Thompson, Director of the Academy of Cleaning Excellence, your host here at Beyond Clean with ACE.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Dave Thompson, and you can see I am here at Beyond Clean with ACE. We talk about everything in, not just always clean, but today we're going to talk about cleaning. I've got a report that came out, and it's an interesting conversation that we're going to have this afternoon. Matter of fact, while we're recording this, it is the first day of July of 2024. Man, the year is almost half over. Golly gee, where did it go? Anyway, I'm not the only one going to have the conversation with myself. I've got somebody else to talk with. Blake, you've been on the podcast before, but maybe some people haven't seen you, so let's start there.
Hey, Dave, thanks for having me today. It's always a pleasure. I appreciate all that you do for the industry, and I'm excited to chat today, and hopefully our conversation helps somebody in the industry care for their employees better. So, Blake Dozier is my name with On Point Building Services. I've been around for almost 10 years, started the company back in 2015, and we're based in Virginia Beach, Virginia.
You know, that is a milestone in itself, Blake. I mean, have you seen some of the averages or the statistics about companies that don't make it to year 3 and 5?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's probably, I know you've quoted some of them to me before, but I would imagine that our industry is probably even lower success rate than the average.
That's an interesting one. I haven't really checked that one, Blake, but I do know that now, and this has been a few years ago. I haven't seen some recent numbers. So if you're listening to the podcast today and you have some updated numbers for us, Blake and I'd like to have them, because we're going to talk about some numbers today and some report statistics and stuff. And they're not always 100% accurate in our own vision of our microcosm of business, but they're good as far as getting a conversation started, Blake.
So I actually just an hour ago got an email from a business broker that had some statistics on this, and this is all small businesses, not the janitorial industry, but it said there are, trying to do this from memory, but 33 million small businesses in America, and it defines small as under 500 employees. And of those 33 million, only 7% make it above $1 million in annual revenue.
Uh-huh.
And of those 7%, only 4% make it above 10 million in revenue.
Wow.
So, if I'm remembering all that correctly, I divided it out, and that was like 0.27% of all companies, small businesses, make it above 10 million in revenue.
So then I guess, Blake, that leads all of us that are listening. So where are you?
We are getting very close to that 0.27%. Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, you were leading us down the path, and we were all sitting here going, well, where's he at? Where's he at?
Yeah. we are. I don't look at that as necessarily the number one driver for success or anything, but
No.
I do. We do have growth targets and growth goals, and I think that we have a responsibility to our employees and to our customers and to our community to continue to grow our business, mostly to the employees, so that they don't have to go somewhere else to get raises and grow in their careers and advancement. If we can keep growing, then we can really promote from within, and we have opportunities for our people to make more money and take on more responsibility. And so, yeah, we're always trying to grow every year. And,
Well, I think
and typically, go ahead.
No, but as you say that, and 2 points that you made there, Blake, is I do believe that our clients, which are both internal and external, are looking for stability. And so the growth has to be there. How much you turn in annual revenue is just one of the factors.
Just one of the factors. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that doesn't speak to whether you're profitable or not. It doesn't speak to what your contract mix is like. It doesn't speak to how well you take care of your people. It doesn't speak to your customer satisfaction rate, your employee satisfaction rate. It's just one of many measurables, but it is one that we do track. Pretty much all businesses track that as a measurable. And
Sure.
you want your measurables to be measurable. You want to be able to know, this is my goal in this time period, and did I hit it or not? So typically we target to try to sell, our retention rate is well into the 90s, 90%, 95 percentile. We don't lose a lot of contracts for quality reasons. But the most common reason we do lose contracts is because a customer moves, like they move into a building that already has a janitorial contract with another contractor in place, or they go out of business, or they leave the area, something like that's out of our control. And that's always going to happen. That happened a bunch during COVID, and some of that stuff came back and some of it didn't. And
that's what I was thinking as you were saying that. I was thinking now I guess everybody kind of rates things pre-COVID and post-COVID now.
Yeah. And I mean, I kind of see some of the things that happened during COVID as anomalies. Right. But as far as growth goes, we figure, like, our fault or not our fault, we're probably always going to lose at least 5% of our contracts in a given year if we have a 95% retention rate. And so we try to, if we want to grow by 10%, which we feel like is a healthy growth rate. Of course, that removes any acquisitions. When we have acquisition, we grow at a lot higher rate.
Acquisition changes the whole picture, right?
That's right. And usually when you have an acquisition, it comes with managers and people to manage the stuff that you're taking on. So it's not a strain on your existing people. But essentially, we try to sell. Our target growth rate each year is 10%. So I try to sell 15%, knowing that we're likely going to lose around 5, which that will put us at 10, and that, I think, is a very healthy growth target, because you're not growing too fast. In our industry, you can only grow as fast as you can staff the new contracts. And so if you don't have a healthy HR department and recruiting process and team, you're not going to be able to staff the contracts that you win. And it doesn't matter how good you are at sales. If you can't back it up on the operations side, you're going to start losing your good customers that you have, because your quality is going to go down across the board if you add a bunch of contracts and don't have the management and the cleaners to do it.
Okay, so now that you brought that up, now you brought me right into this report that we're going to talk about today, because as you said, you've got to staff that. So the question that most people, if you're a small business in the cleaning industry and you're listening or watching this podcast, we're just bringing up this report because it's a focus of conversation. It's not that we agree or disagree. We're just gonna converse about it. So if you've already got the report, you've read through it, then fine, great. You have your view. we have some things, but I want to bring up this first one here. And this one, let me see if I can get this a little bit larger here for us. This here was, how much do you pay for employee referral? I know that when I was in the business some years ago, we really didn't do this. I understand it's fairly popular now, but then looking at the report, still 41% of people don't do this. You do, don't, or what do you think?
We do. We change it from time to time, depending on how our hiring is going. And, sometimes hiring is a lot easier than other times. Part of it has to do with the time of the year, around Christmas time in the fall, like hiring gets easier because people want to make money for Christmas.
Sure.
Around when tax returns come out, hiring gets really hard because people don't need extra money. And, in the cleaning industry, a lot of us, at least in the type of contracts we clean, it's a lot of evening cleaning, which usually means a lot of part-time workers. And so a lot of those jobs are jobs that people are getting when they need extra money. And so when inflation gets bad, hiring gets easier, which has been the case recently. It's still going up and down throughout those seasons of the year. But typically, we have historically always offered some sort of hiring referral bonus to people that give us referrals of friends or family members to come and work for us. And we typically, most of the time, we split it up between a certain amount upon hire, and then they get more money if that person makes it 90 days.
Okay, so here was on the report, I see anywhere here from $50 to $250, and it even said 8% is higher than $250. I'm thinking this has to do a lot geographically, or am I right?
That's part of it. I think, hiring can be so much, so different depending geographically, like as far as, if you're in a big city and you're in a part of a big city, like that has a lot of low income housing, you have access to a lot of cleaners that might want extra money, in our market we're in southeastern Virginia, we get contracts all over the market, and some contracts we know because it's in a more affluent part of town, we know that we have to budget to pay the people more because there aren't people that live in that area that are going to want cleaning jobs, and whoever's coming to do that is driving from outside of that immediate area. And so you got to make it worth it to them and entice them with a higher pay rate.
Okay, so you also mentioned, I think in that, Blake, also that you pay after 90 days. Here was the part of the report that talks about people that pay upon hire, and that I think you fall right in line with the other 41% here from the way this is.
Yeah, I've seen people do it both ways. I've seen people do it immediately. We talk with a lot of people in the industry, and I don't think there's really a wrong way to do it.
Okay.
I think if it's working, then keep doing it. But I think that we tinker with it based on how high our open positions are and how many spots we need to fill and how hard hiring is at the time. And so, we will send out a blast to our people and say, hey, the bonus is now X, X upon hire and X upon 90 days. For the next 60 days, this is what it is, if we want to really increase it and get more traction on,
does that have
more interviews.
Does that have a lot to do whenever you start a new contract, or is it something that is ongoing? I'm kind of curious there.
We try to start new contracts, about every month if we can.
Okay.
And some months we end up having multiple new contracts start at the same time. And so sometimes that can be a pretty big hiring need at one time. And so those are the times when we might increase the bonus for referrals. And, you know, we keep a list of, like how many open positions, is the ceiling that we are willing to have. So our HR department has a goal to keep our open positions below a certain amount.
Well, I thought this was interesting as you say that, because you've got to get these people from someplace. And as it said here, about 38, close to 40% of all of that is from this employee referral program that you're talking about. But I thought it was interesting that 30% is still online now. Do you find, is there your HR finding this true as well?
Yeah, I think this particular chart here, I think it tracks pretty closely with what we experience. We have a very high percentage of referrals and a high percentage of just online job websites.
Now, do you do any of that compensation for the online people as well? I mean, I know that's not referral, but if you get them online and they stay for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, do they get a sign-in bonus or anything?
We've never done that. I've heard of companies doing that, not as much in our space, but I've heard of people doing that more in the white collar world with like salespeople or in the tech space, like engineers and things like that. When growth is important, and you got to get the right people at the right time.
Well, I've heard about this, and I did not see that in this report. And that's why I wanted to ask you, because I have talked with some other companies that are now doing this, and they say it's being successful, to get them to come over from wherever they are. They're also, I've heard, doing this, and I don't have any other way, better way to say it, the sign-on bonus, if they have X number of years of certified experience, not just that they've cleaned with some, company, but they actually have been certified and have credentials that follow up.
We don't have anything like that, but I mean, I like the idea, and I think it could be valuable. I think it's a function of where you are in your hiring process, how many open positions you have, what types of new contracts you're taking on, how large are they, how many managers are you in need versus frontline cleaners. Hiring good managers is way harder than hiring frontline cleaners. And so I could definitely see that being, valuable in recruiting more higher level talent.
So I think one of the things that you mentioned in our conversations has been, turnover rates. And I think you mentioned that a little bit ago. Getting them is one thing, as we just talked about. Mm-hmm. Retaining them is, quite another issue. And I guess this is true with everybody that's listening today. Yeah.
I think it is important for people to track turnover rates. I think I see statistics on turnover rates in the industry all over the place. And so I think different people sometimes measure it differently. The way that I think about it, and we think about it in our company, the majority of our turnover is in the first 30 days. And a lot of times in the first week, you get people that come and they think they know what they're signing up for, and they get there for night one and they're like, this is not what I signed up for. Or I don't want to do this, or I don't like the building, or what have you. And so, to me, in my opinion, there are things that you can do to reduce that type of turnover. You can have an excellent onboarding experience that's really professional. You can have an excellent training experience where, you have hands-on training. And, I've heard of people hiring people and like sending them to a building to clean, and no one's there to meet them or show it to them or anything. And so things like that can really contribute to people quitting after night one, and not a good experience.
I was going to say, now that is the recipe for failure, folks. So take Blake's advice, and I can guarantee you that would make a high turnover rate.
That's right. And there's probably people in the industry that would disagree with me on this, but we just don't care as much about the churn in the first 30 days, which is by far the overwhelming majority of our turnover. We have a lot of turnover of like what I would call life circumstance turnover, where it's like a great employee leaves because they have a childcare issue, or they have to go back to their country to help a parent or a relative, for an extended period of time.
Yep.
And they're leaving not because they haven't done anything wrong. They were a good employee. You'd want them back if they were able to come back. And so when I look at that type of turnover, like, they're not leaving because they were mad. You didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
And when we have those type of people, like, their life circumstance changes again, and like they get their childcare fixed, or they come back from going out of country and they call us and ask for their job back. Like, to me, that says we're doing something right here, and we're creating a place that people want to work, because people that have been here and left are calling and asking to come back. And that says we're winning the culture battle. And so, that kind of thing, when you're just looking at straight turnover rate, a lot of those types of things and situations just don't get broken out for most people and in the industry. And so I just don't think that all turnover is bad turnover. And so I also think that, like, it's not a good thing if your turnover rate is super, super low, because if it is, like, there's some statistical anomaly in there. Like, for example, you might be a really small mom and pop company that does almost all the cleaning yourself. And so if you don't hire a lot of people, then you're not going to have a lot of turnover, but if you have a couple hundred employees, like, you should have some significant turnover of frontline cleaners. You don't want to have a lot of turnover of managers and long-term employees, but you're going to have turnover of frontline cleaners, because the nature of the job, especially if you're a company that skews more towards the types of contracts that are full-time positions, especially full-time daytime positions, those are some of the more coveted positions in the cleaning industry, and the turnover in those roles should be a lot lower. So if your contract mix,
that's where we should have that close to zero rate, because it's not only the prime contract for the company, it's the prime job career.
That's right.
For the front line. I worked with a company that they only did day porters, and they have almost zero turnover rate.
Yep. Yeah, because those end up being some of the most desirable jobs. I mean, a lot of times, if you work for us, all of our full-time roles are eligible for benefits, health, dental, vision, 401k with a match.
Right.
If you've been with us long enough. And none of the part-time roles are.
If your company is a carpet cleaning company and they're running truck mount carpet cleaning machines here in Florida all day long, you're going to have turnover, because you're just going to work the heck out of them. You got to go through them.
That's right. So there's a lot of things that influence turnover like that, including your contract mix, your breakdown of full-time to part-time employees. So for us, an overwhelming majority of our employees are part-time. And so we're okay with being a place that people come for a few months if they just need to make some extra money. And if they're a good employee.
So then you would fall on this chart somewhere in that, I'm just guessing here, that 31 to 40% turnover rate?
No. No, I think that this, I don't believe this is correct at all.
Okay.
I think that I'd like to look at the actual breakdown of the companies that almost every single cleaning company that I've ever talked to is above 80 or 90%. There's, I don't see, I bet if you took out all the mom and pops, there'd be nobody on the list that's at 0 or 1 to 10. I could be completely wrong. But my experience in talking to cleaning companies around the country and other owners, I've always heard statistics like the average turnover in our industry is between 200 and 400%.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't know how that that breaks down in that particular, if for the survey, or if the information was interpreted correctly when making that chart. Because I don't, it doesn't compute with what I know.
There's a lot of things that go into that play, and it's like this pie shape here. What you were talking about just a little bit ago is the reasons that people leave. And if you're a small organization in the cleaning industry, less than $1 million, these things are going to influence you more than probably a $10 million company. Would you not say?
That's right. And I just think that there's, especially when looking at turnover, and there are so many factors that it's hard to just say, this is a cleaning company and that's a cleaning company, and this cleaning company has a turnover rate of X%, and this cleaning company has a turnover of Y%, and those are apples to apples. And I just don't think it's that easy to look at two companies, look at their turnover rate and say, this one's better than this one. So I think if people that brag about having a really low turnover rate, like if they have a lot of part-time people and they still have a really low turnover rate, I question whether they just don't fire people that they should fire. Like you should be firing some people in the cleaning industry.
Well, I think that goes back, Blake, exactly to some of that conversation when you start talking about what type of service. I mean, whenever I was in the business, I got out of full janitorial because of the retention and the people that didn't clean. And I found out about it at 7:30 in the morning when nobody showed up at the building. But I went strictly into floor care, hard floor care, where I had mainly full-time people that had a complete full 8-hour shift, and I had a better retention rate.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of that was because of that. And I could recruit better because I was more specific. Now that's the two different types of cleaning companies that you mentioned, right?
Mm-hmm.
It definitely screwed.
And I would say even within my own company, we don't care as much about, we do track turnover rate
right
year to year, so we can compare how we're doing. We track all kinds of things, but I think it would be better if we actually broke it down further between part-time people, full-time people. What's our turnover rate for people that have been with us for over a year? What's our turnover rate for people, what's our turnover rate in our floor care division, versus, I think breaking it down like that, really it gives you more helpful information to make decisions and determine if you're successful and you're trending in the right direction year to year with your turnover.
I think we use reports like this, Blake, for basically just what you and I are doing right now, just to bring up conversations to make us aware that, what, we should look at things. And I think that's the point of our conversation today, folks, is not to really say yay or nay about any of it. It's all really subjective. But what we're trying to say is you need to look at your own numbers and know what they are year to year to year. As you grow, has that not changed?
Yeah, it absolutely has. And I think I liked how you said that. These reports can help somebody understand sometimes where they stand in some senses in comparison with the industry. But it really should be a reminder that it's really important for you to be able to get better each year at digging into your own numbers and comparing year to year and start putting together trend lines for yourself so that you can continue to get better.
Well, it is your business. You're the entrepreneur. You're the one running it. If you don't know your numbers, and I think this goes back to what you said before, I can either make money or I can make profit. And those two things are completely different.
That's right.
It's all about numbers, right?
Oh yeah. 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 And like you were talking about with the top line revenue thing, there's lots of people who have a high top line revenue, but their company doesn't make money. And long term, I think that that's not always a good, being a good steward of your employees and your customers, because it puts their jobs at risk. You know, you got to have enough profit to keep a healthy company and retain enough earnings to be able to keep the company going and, you know, be safe if somebody doesn't pay on time, you know, that you can still make payroll.
Have you ever fired a customer before?
Yep.
You know, I know some people say,
sometimes I call them, sometimes I've called them life's too short customers. Life's too short to be doing business with people like that. There are most of our customers are great, but we've had some in the past before that were just really disrespectful to our people, or to us, or you know, just really negative individuals. And we've found that we just do better with customers that have more of a partnership mentality. They realize that, you know, if we're cleaning something 5 nights a week for them, that we're showing up, 200 sometimes a year, to clean their building. And with people that are probably paid less than most of their employees that work in that building. And so depending on the industry that we're cleaning for. And so what we're being asked to do is really difficult. And so working with customers that have a partnership mentality to understand, hey, I know what this vendor's doing for me is really hard and probably harder than a lot of the other vendors that I have coming here. And so if they can communicate well and you can establish a good relationship where you can, you know, have solid communication, and when there's an issue, you fix it quickly. That usually leads to like that partnership mentality, and they really, you know, it establishes a long-term relationship.
Okay, so I was about ready to drop the report thing, but you brought something up and I want to ask you, do you mind if we talk about employee compensation for a moment?
Sure.
Because I thought something was interesting in this report, folks. Let me get this button right here. You know, I thought it was interesting here do janitors start at a higher rate of pay than the state minimum or to the federal minimum? It said yes on both, and I hear people go, but I'm not making minimum wage. This doesn't sound right.
Who do you hear saying they're not making minimum wage?
Oh, I hear that from custodians all the time. I'm not making enough, and I'm not getting, you know, I'm not making minimum wage. It's you know, and I'm like, really? How can you say that?
It could be, I mean, let's assume that they're not breaking the law and they are paying them. Well, there's a lot of ways that this could be happening. So we've seen a lot of competitors pay people per job and not per hour. And so they'll get a cleaner they'll pay them as a 1099, which usually isn't legal either if they don't have their own business. But it's very, very common in our industry, but they will, you know, say, we'll give you $50 a day to clean this building. You just make sure it's clean and don't get complaints. And so they'll agree with that. But then what happens is they can't keep it up to the quality level that it needs to be. And so when they actually have to put the amount of hours that it actually takes in, that's how then it ends up breaking down to less than minimum wage. And then also when they're a 1099, they're not getting their taxes taken out or anything like that, which is also part of why it's not legal, because they're not paying the employment taxes on it. But you know, it happens a lot with immigrants and different things like that. You know, in our industry, it's really common, and it's it's sad really because it's taking advantage of people. But I don't know how these particular rates in this report, how this breaks down. But
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, and you're in a different zone than I am by looking at the report. I'm down here in the southeast. You're in the northwest, and there's about $2 an hour difference between the two of us. I mean, you hire people from all over, I assume.
yeah, I mean, I would say when this says frontline janitors, what does that mean?
What stipulates that in that terminology?
Are those full-time or part-time?
That was my thought. Thank you.
Is that a loaded rate, meaning like, is the labor burden included in that?
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of questions that you could dig deeper into to make the information more valuable.
That's exactly what I wanted you to say, Blake, and I'm glad you said that because, I've got a job bidding class that I conduct here at the Academy, and it's very interesting that when I get into this conversation that the person goes, oh, well, I pay my frontline person $15 an hour. I said, okay, so let's keep going with that. By the time we do that, and at some point, you have to have a supervisor that supervises that person, not just you yourself. You have to pay for them. And you've got to pay your taxes. You got to pay the burden and everything. By the time it gets to the end of that $15 an hour person, they were like, wait a minute. I'm like, and if you didn't put that in your bid to start with, that's coming out of your profit at the end.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a reason for having a conversation about this, folks, is if you look at reports like this, what we're trying to say is ask questions. Is that not true?
Ask more questions. That's exactly right. I mean, I think it's a good starting point for a discussion. But like another question I'd ask with that particular one you just showed was like, what, not only is it full or part-time, but what is the product type? What type of building? Is it manufacturing? Is it office? Is it, because I think, sometimes in like a manufacturing setting or a setting that's, more dangerous or more difficult, the pay rate's going to be higher.
Oh, yeah.
And
I mean,
so were the companies that were sampled, like, do they skew more towards cleaning, manufacturing, or schools, where the pay rates are higher than office space,
Absolutely. Class A cleaning, Class A office space cleaning is different than Class C manufacturing. I mean, I know up in your area up there, you got the shipyards and stuff, and I guarantee you, cleaning in those kind of environments is different than cleaning, the 15th story of the New York State building.
Yep, absolutely. And we do both types of product, and it's a totally different deal, and I bid them totally differently,
Yeah, you know your numbers, and they are reflected in both. And we're talking about the retention. We're talking about all of these things we're talking about today play not only in the proposal that you put, the bid that you're going to give them, but then keeping that contract long term. Do you find that all of this also plays differently when I have a 1-year contract or a 1 year with 3 years up?
I mean, at the end of the day, when I'm bidding on a contract, especially since COVID, I think some people are shy to sign up for the longer contracts because
really
they don't know what's going to happen with you. Yeah, like, I mean, at least in Virginia, we had our minimum wage go from $7.25 to $12 in the course of 20 months, I believe. So, and then there was a possibility that it would go to $13.50 and then to $15, which it did not do. But if you had a 5-year contract that you signed at a 725, when the minimum wage was 725, and you didn't have a way to raise your rates when the minimum wage went up that quickly, you would just have to fire the client and just say, like, you would have lost so much money, And so, I personally, even now, like most of my contracts, I don't usually push for 3-5 year contracts unless there's some sort of rate escalation or some clause that says that if the minimum wage goes up, I can increase my rates. And
well, that's the reason. That's the reason I asked that question, is because I believe that we need to get back to that, but we have learned that we now need to look at different things than we did before.
yeah, I think that the minimum wage is so different from state to state across the country. That's part of what is skewing maybe some of those numbers in the regional pay rates that you just showed. Because the federal minimum wage is still 725, and so that's artificially low. Like, I know people that have cleaning businesses in states that the minimum wage is still 725, and they cannot and have not been able for for a very, very long time, have never been able to hire people at minimum wage because the market, is much higher than that.
Right.
I talked to one the other day that they're hiring frontline cleaners at 14 to 16 bucks an hour, and their minimum wage is 725. And it's not a function of what that minimum wage is there. It's more how the hiring market is. And so, when ours went up that quickly, for a very short time, we could hire people at minimum wage and they were happy with that. But that went away, pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where, as an entrepreneur, I see this all the time with people that are starting new businesses, and they may be listening to this podcast today. I work for somebody, and now I want to work for myself. I want to have my own business, and we're going to start a cleaning business. And I'm like, folks, you have no idea what you're getting ready to walk into. It's not, cleaning is the easy part. Cleaning the toilets and doing the floors and emptying the trash is the easy part, folks. If you listen to one of these podcasts, I think you might learn that.
Yeah, I think what a lot of people don't realize when they get into this business is they get into business because they're good at cleaning, and you don't need to be good at cleaning to succeed in this business. You need to be good at hiring, recruiting, training, and managing people. And there's really a lot you can do if you like cleaning and you just want to run your own business and do the cleaning yourself. You can run a small company and be happy doing that. And there's plenty of people who do that. But if you want to grow it, continue to grow it and scale it, you can't clean yourself eventually, because you can only clean for so many hours a week, and you can only charge for so many hours that you clean for.
So, we've been talking for a little while about this, folks, and we appreciate your time listening to us or watching us here Beyond Clean with Ace. Blake's been with us a couple of times. Last time we actually got to sit down face to face, we were up in Baltimore.
That was a good time.
Hey, you know what? I got 2 sessions that I proposed for next year. Hopefully I'll be back up there again.
I might be there as well.
That'll be good. Hey, you're welcome to come back on the podcast anytime. Any parting words of wisdom from somebody out there in the trenches doing this and surviving and keeping people working?
Yeah, I think I really appreciate what you do for our industry and just having these conversations to help people like me get better at what we do. And, at the end of the day, what makes this industry better is when owners and managers and cleaning companies get better at caring for their people, get better at creating good culture. That obviously helps with retention. But when we get better at the culture piece, when we get better at the training piece, you know, I've heard somebody say, I can't remember the exact quote, but, you know, what if we pay all this money to train the people and they leave us? And then, you know, somebody else says, well, what if we don't pay all this money to train the people and they stay, you know? And so, you know, I think in our industry, spending money and time on training and culture is the way to win. And the companies that are good at that are the ones that are going to have and keep the best employees. They're the ones that are going to win long term in this business. They're the ones that are going to have the happiest employees, the happiest customers. And that's what we're trying to do. And it's extremely difficult, you know, to do that day in and day out. And but at the end of the day, all you can do is just continue to swing the bat and just continue to try and continue to be creative and continue to think of ways that you can care for your people, you know, through all kinds of different initiatives. We try everything in the book. And you're going to have people that think that you don't care about them. You're going to have people who, you know, leave you a bad Google review for some silly reason. But at the end of the day, if you consistently day in and day out are constantly thinking about caring for your people, creating good culture, and making sure that you're training them well and you're being a good steward of those people, you are going to have a chance to win in this business.
You know, as somebody that does training now for a living, education, we now have an onboarding program for those people, as you were just talking. I can't help but say it. I don't normally give a commercial here, but, you know, it is so important, but yet it's a thing that I have the most difficulty with. And your quote as something I've used for years. You know, I'm not concerned about you spending money on them and them leaving. I'm concerned about those people that stay and hurt your business. And, you know, I think this is one of the things I've always said, I hate on the job training, because all it does is it simply gets one person to teach the new person what it takes to keep the boss off their back. Now, there's probably some people right now that's not agreeing with me on that, but I know for a fact that there's a lot of that going on. And I think that contributes to a lot of that unnecessary turnover that we were talking about. And that's why we have an onboarding program. We just launched it. Go to our website, academyofcleaning.com. You can get that if you'd like. Maybe that'll help you with some of this retention we're talking about. Blake would be glad to get you into some of that if you'd like to. Otherwise, you got to come back on and talk some more about some of this stuff. I think I heard a couple of things there that I'd like to explore the next time.
Yeah, Dave, thanks for having me, and thanks for all you do for the industry. And I always enjoy talking with you.
Anyway, folks, you saw it go along the bottom there. On Point Services, serviceco.com. I always get that wrong. And we'll have the links there so you can get hold of Blake in the show notes. Doing anything special this week for the 4th?
Yeah, we're getting together with some family down at the Outer Banks of North Carolina, down in Hatteras Island.
Get to watch fireworks over the ocean, right?
I hope so. Yeah, do a little bit of that, do a little bit of surfing, and sitting on the beach with my wife and 4 kids.
Enjoy your time. Talk with you later, Blake.
Have a great day. Happy 4th.